In today's society, there's a severe lack in financial literacy. According to FINRA, 20% of adults in America have been offered and have participated in some form of financial education. In the hopes of reaching the other 80% before disaster may strike, I want to focus today on the college students of America. Being young and new to the brutality of financial responsibility can be scary, and so hopefully this video will help relieve some of those fears. My name is Timothy Gorman, and today I'm going to walk you through the basics of financial literacy. Understanding your cost and making plans to cover your costs as a college student is of the utmost importance. COA, or cost of attendance, is the total price tag on your higher level of education. We will be doing some simple math with this number, so go ahead and write this number down. Scholarships, whether we have them or not, are also an important part of the equation, and so you should know these numbers as well. And before we move forward, as a side note, most universities should have all of this information posted on your respective student portal, so go ahead and check there before moving forward. Now that you know both your COA and your scholarships, the difference between the two will be the cost that you yourself must cover. The two most common ways of covering these outlined costs are going to be from family contributions and loans. With family contributions being fairly straightforward, let's dive into loans a little deeper. In general, there are two types of loans, federal and private. Federal loans are issued directly from the government and come in two variants, subsidized and unsubsidized. Subsidized loans are great, as the government pays all of your interest while you're in school. Unsubsidized loans, however, are not as attractive, as you'll still have to pay all the interest yourself. The best thing about both types of federal loans, however, is that your interest rates will be much lower than with private loans. After applying for federal loans through FAFSA, it is recommended to always choose subsidized over unsubsidized. Private loans, on the other end of the spectrum, are issued from banks or companies and are mostly all similar to each other. You are considered a risk to these institutions, and therefore will often be required to complete a credit check as a part of the application process. Your interest rates on private loans will reflect your credit score, and therefore different institutions might provide lower interest rates than others. It is generally recommended to accept all federal loans if possible, but after running numbers through a calculator, you yourself should always choose which is best for you. As for a minor tip for paying off loans, including student loans, signing up for automatic payments will often lower your interest rates, so keep this in mind. Now, with both loans and family contributions accounted for, you may now create your college payment plan, which is a monumental step towards financial security. Having already discussed one important part of financial planning for young adults, let's now move forward into the elusive world of investing. Investing has a pretty bad reputation of being confusing and, well, let's definitely not say beginner-friendly. By taking small steps into learning some investing terms, you'll be able to feel much more comfortable about your future financial decisions. However, let's start out by discussing why you should be investing. The very attractiveness of investing finds its source in the idea of compounding. The graph shown from CNBC and Acorns perfectly demonstrates the power that compounding can provide to investors. Here we see that investor 1 invests less money over time than investor 2, 50 versus 150,000. But by starting sooner, investor 1 outperforms investor 2 by over $100,000 as her account grew exponentially. Through this example alone, you can already see the importance of investing, and especially starting at a young age. Now that you know why you should want to invest, you need to decide three things. What is your risk capacity? What is your risk tolerance? And what is your time horizon? Risk capacity is how much risk you are capable of taking, and to understand this is pretty much just analyzing your current financial position. This includes your debt, income, expenses, and things of that nature. Risk tolerance, on the other hand, is the amount of risk you are willing to take. And to understand this is as simple as taking an online quiz, which you can tell how much of a risk taker you are. Lastly, your time horizon is simply the question of when will you want your investments to have matured. Now that you understand your own risk capacity, risk tolerance, and time horizon, you may now decide which methods of investing best suit you. There are two most common investing vehicles, which are stocks and bonds. Stocks, by definition, are pieces of liquidity of a company, meaning when you buy stock, you then own a small percentage of that company. All stocks have varying levels of risk associated with them. There are growth stocks, which focus their money on expanding their business, while there are also higher risk. And there are also value stocks, which focus their money on increasing dividends, which are a lower risk. Next are bonds, which are essentially how investors buy the debt of companies. Bonds allow investors to give small loans to companies, on which the company will pay interest, as well as pay back the principal loan amount to the investor with due time. Stocks are inherently more risky than bonds, and so for nearly all investors, a process called diversification is important, which is buying a combination of both stocks and bonds in order to diversify your investments and to mitigate risk. While on the topic of diversification, there are two other common types of investing that do this process for you. These two investment vehicles are referred to as mutual funds and index funds. Mutual funds are the older brother of index funds, and by purchasing a mutual fund or index fund, you are essentially buying a plethora of stocks with one purchase. The difference between these two types of funds is that mutual funds are actively managed by a professional financial advisor who chooses which stocks to invest in, while an index fund uses an algorithm or index in order to mirror the market. Both mutual funds and index funds provide diversification, and choosing one will depend on whether you want to pay about 2% of your earnings for active management or about 0.04% of your earnings for passive management. With the understanding of stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and index funds, you are now equipped with the essentials to the world of investing and can understand which mediums might fit your financial goals the best. Continue down the line, however, it is now time to start thinking about retirement. Here from Wealth Street Investment Advisors to talk about retirement is my mentor, Leslie Reynoso.
Everyone should save for retirement. Social Security will not be enough for the average American, and therefore you will need to make up the difference with your own retirement savings. There are several tax-efficient investment vehicles in order to save for retirement. The first one is an individual retirement account, also known as an IRA. It is a tax-deductible account which can be invested in stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, and various other options. A 401k is an employer-sponsored plan where you can contribute tax-deductible money into your retirement directly from your paycheck. 401k, this contribution can sometimes be matched by your employer, which you should take advantage of, and sometimes plans allow you to take out loans. A 403b is similar to a 401k, except that it is offered to employees of tax-exempt or nonprofit organizations such as charities, churches, hospitals, and schools. This can also be matched by your employer. 403b plans allow you to borrow against your balance as well. All 30 retirement vehicles have the option of pre-tax contributions or post-tax contributions, also known as Roth. Pre-tax contributions allow you to invest your money before taxes, and when you're ready to retire and take it out at 59.5, you will have to pay taxes on both the amount you contributed as well as the gains and interest that the account made. The Roth option allows you to pay taxes now on your contributions, invest the assets, and when you're ready to take it out at retirement at 59.5, you won't have to pay taxes on the money you invested, as well as any of the gains or interest on the account. This option is the most beneficial for young investors since they have such a long time horizon, can weather the ups and downs of the market, and because of the power of compounding. Let's look at the previous example shown, but let's focus on Investor 1 and what pre-tax means to her versus Roth. Investor 1 put away $50,000 of her own money in the 10 years she saved. At the end, she ended up with $787,000. This means that she will have to pay taxes on all $787,000. On the other hand, if her contributions had been Roth contributions, she would have had to pay taxes each year she contributed, but at retirement, she would be able to take out all $787,000 without paying taxes on the money she already paid taxes on or any of the gains or interest. This is a huge benefit. There is no right or wrong answer since we will not know what taxes will be in the future. But the younger you are, the more sense a Roth contribution makes.
And this brings us to the end. I hope you were able to find some of today's information useful. Going forward, the most important thing to remember is simply to take action. Thinking back to the beginning of the video, we know that 20% of Americans have received financial education before, but how many of them have practiced their education is the real question. Both my mentor and I's wish for you is that you will use this information to help yourself in your personal trek through your professional career. Thank you for joining us today. I'm going to leave you with a quote from the legend Warren Buffett himself. "Someone's sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago."